Welcome everyone to this month's VISTA training event. Today we will be covering life after VISTA, which will be going over some of the benefits and what you receive at the end of your service year. So mainly the education award and covering the details about non-competitive eligibility and what that means. Um, Mandy, could you go to the next slide, please? So your education award. And there are benefits too. But could we go back one?
Sorry, so my screen decided to pop something up right where I need to click, of course.
No worries, and that's a good question in chat that we can cover in a little bit.
Let
Um,
me just stop share and get it back. Sorry, guys. Like I said, my screen decided to put something right where I needed to click.
I love that hair, Mandy. Wow, what awesome hair. My gosh. Looks
Thank
great.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
amazing, amazing hair, Mandy.
and I knew we were going to get some specific questions that I might not have the direct and immediate answer to. But as far as the education award, um, and we'll cover it later, but um, you get taxed on using it, or it becomes taxable income, and that is a factor in how it's used. But after successfully completing a term of service, AmeriCorps VISTA members are eligible to receive a Siegel Education Award. This education award can be used to pay education costs at colleges and universities, or pay for educational training, and to repay qualified student loans. The amount of the education award is tied to the Department of Education's Pell Grant and will vary based on the year and program in which you serve. But once you earn your award, its value doesn't change. Okay, and you can see the amount of the award you know, once you complete your term by going to your My AmeriCorps login page. Um, Next slide, please. Okay, benefits. Selecting the Education Award allows you to access some other important benefits like the National Service Forbearance and Interest Accrual Payment. The National Service Forbearance allows you to forbear your federal student loans during your service and have up to 100% of the interest that accrued on those loans paid after service. Okay, so yeah, the award would take care of any interest there, which is one of the better perks if you went that route. Um, Next slide, please. Okay, but there are some limitations. Okay, the Education Award does have some limitations that you should be aware of. Um, it begins after the completion of your service. It expires 7 years from the date it was earned. Okay, so you should get an email from AmeriCorps saying that it's been like awarded, and then it exists in that account for 7 years. You do not have to use all at once. You could divide it up and use portions of it at different times during those 7 years. If you extend your service, you are only eligible for the end of service stipend during the extension period and cannot receive forbearance or interest payments for the extension period. Okay, you cannot give your education award to someone else. Okay, so the slide information unfortunately answered your question in the negative. So it looks like you can't use it for someone else. This means you can't transfer the award to a child or grandchild if you are 55 years of age and older. If you decide to serve multiple terms, there's a limit on the amount of education awards that an individual is allowed to receive. By law, the individual is not allowed to receive more than the value of 2 full-time education awards. And finally, the education award is counted as taxable income, so you may incur tax liability, but we'll cover the details of that as we move through these slides here. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so forbearance versus deferment. During VISTA service, you can put your loans in deferment or forbearance. Both of these are types of pauses on your student loan payments during the duration of your service. However, they are different in important ways. So deferment, you do not have to pay interest on your loan during service. To put your loans in deferment, you will have to contact your loan servicer directly. Forbearance, you can postpone paying the principal, but the interest will still accumulate. To put your loans in forbearance, you can request this through your My AmeriCorps portal. Okay. Only members who request the education award are eligible for forbearance. However, VISTAs can apply for deferment. And we'll discuss the potential factors in making this decision a little bit further on. And so, next slide. So, what can you use the education award for? There are 2 types of payments you can make using your education award. Qualifying student loan payments and eligible educational expenses. Okay? You do not have to choose between one or the other. You could use your award for both. You could make some student loan payments right after your service and pay for the future education with your balance that's left. Okay? Is everything making is have most of you guys chosen the education award? Or I don't know if you want to put your hand up or okay, good. Yeah, I hope this is pertinent because so let's see. Which type of loans can I pay with the education award? Um, and this is an open question, so feel free to unmute yourself or you can answer in the chat. But just take a second and what do you guys think? Looking for feedback.
I would assume federal.
All
Federal.
student loans.
Okay. Okay. And that's that's actually the right answer. When we talk about qualified student loans, we mean federal student loans. These are loans backed by or given by the U.S. government. They own the loans, although they may be serviced through other companies like Mohella, Nelnet, ACS, or Fed Loan Servicing. Okay, and from personal experience, I learned that lesson the hard way. Some private student loans over here. Um, but anyway, going to the next slide, please. Okay, using the education award to pay for qualifying student loans. The Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award can only be used to repay the qualified student loans. Okay, so loans are qualified student loans if they're backed by the federal government in Title IV of the Higher Education Act. So Stafford loans, Perkins loans, WMD for federal direct loans, federal consolidated loans, supplement loans to students, and guaranteed student loans. Loans under Title VII or VIII of the Public Service Health Act. Examples include HEAL, HPSL, nursing student loans, primary care loans, and loans for disadvantaged students. And then loans made by state agency, including state institutions of higher education. So private student loans and Parent Plus loans are not qualified student loans. Okay, let's see. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So, question, which are eligible education expenses? For credit class at university? All right, I'm not seeing the chat light up. The answer is all of these expenses are potentially eligible. Okay, so um, so that's it. Each of these would count and are eligible for your student education award. Um, so we can move to the next slide. Okay, using the education award to pay educational expenses. Educational expenses are those incurred from the Title IV institutions. They are institutions that can receive federal student aid. There are over 30,000 Title IV institutions, including universities, community colleges, and many other educational institutions. A great way to find out if a school is eligible is to check out the FAFSA list, FAFSA list. There are many trade schools that are included in the list. If a four-year university experience isn't the right fit for you, also on the list are non-traditional schools such as tattoo schools, cosmetology programs, outdoor educational programs that accept federal financial aid. You can take non-credit enrichment classes like guitar, swimming, photography, or anything else that's offered at an eligible community college or public university. If you decide to use your education award to pay for future tuition, you'll also want to consider that there are a lot of schools and programs that'll match your education award. These come in the form of matching funds, scholarships, expanded benefits, or both. So when you're looking for like your educational opportunity, this is a big question. When if a school you have has an exciting program, you want to make sure that that school um, would accept uh, your VISTA education award. Um, can we go to the next slide? All right, tuition matching. One thing to note is often these matching funds or scholarships are specific programs or departments within a larger university. So again, please look carefully. Carnegie Mellon University's Heinz College of Information Sciences and Public Policy offers a minimum scholarship of $10,000 per semester for VISTA alums, while Emory University offers a $5,000 match on your award specifically for their School of Public Health. And at Illinois State University, they will match your education award and give you a 2-year tuition waiver and an 11-month paid internship. Other matching institutions include Texas A&M, the University of Arizona, the University of Colorado, Duke University, and there are many more. A full list is available on the on AmeriCorps VISTA campus website, and that was true, I think, when we initially had this presentation, but I don't know if you guys have tried to access the VISTA campus recently, but some resources are not as accessible as they were a year ago. So I'm working on, at the end of this presentation, I have a list of links that should help you like do some research into all the details around this, and the links are good. I've double checked. So can we move to the next slide? Okay, accessing your education award. Once your service is complete, to use your education award and other AmeriCorps benefits, you'll first need to access your My AmeriCorps account. Log in and select Create Education Award Payment Request in the left navigation bar. If your loan holder doesn't appear, you can type in their information. If your school doesn't appear, you can request a paper voucher and submit it to your financial aid office. Okay, and next slide. So, how will the education award impact my taxes? So, we are not tax experts here. So, these are just some things to think about. Taxes specific to the education award. The education award counts as taxable income in the tax year in which you use your award. So, you will receive a 1099 miscellaneous income form from the IRS for any amount over $600 that you used from education award in that particular tax year. You can access tax forms in your My AmeriCorps account. So that's all to say, consider not using it all at once. It completely depends on your overall financial situation and taxes, but it's important to note that it'll be considered income on your taxes in the year in which you use it. Okay, so that would be like, and again, this is a pitfall I fell into, but just because your award says you have $6,000 in there, it's I don't have uh, the income to pay taxes on $6,000. So I parse it out when I use my education award. Um, okay, next slide. Oh, Merlinda, you have a question?
Sorry, Robert. So is the stipend, if you select the stipend option, I assume the same thing, it will count as income, or is that not taxable?
It's yes, that would count as income.
I
Yep.
assumed. Okay, thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yep. Okay. Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program exists to help people working for the government or certain nonprofit organizations pay off their student loans. After submitting proof of making 120 qualifying payments on your student loans while working full-time for a qualifying employer, then the rest of your loan balance will be forgiven. So why do we mention this? Because your AmeriCorps service is qualified employment under this program. Okay. If you are receiving the education award, you can put your loans forbearance during service and make a lump sum payment once you receive the award. Note that you can only do this for one service year or 12 qualifying payments. Okay. If you opted for the stipend or in a year 2+ years of service, you can opt into an income-driven repayment plan. Payments could be as low as $0 under some plans. But again, we will send you a list of resources after this training, so you can look through those things and see what fits best for you. Okay. And next slide. Okay, Perkins loan forgiveness. If you selected the stipend, you are still eligible for some loan forgiveness. When you elect the stipend, 15% of your total Perkins loan obligation plus the accrued annual interest will be canceled for the first and second years of the completed AmeriCorps VISTA service. For the third completed year of service, 20% of your total Perkins loan obligation plus the accrued annual interest will be canceled. Members who select an education award are not eligible for this loan forgiveness. Okay, so this is unique to people who picked the stipend. Okay, other things to think about. Non-competitive eligibility. Um, so now we'll move on to discuss non-competitive eligibility. So next slide, please. So what is NCE? Um, NCE is a special hiring status that allows you to go through the standard public competitive process, meaning you can apply to jobs that are not available to the general public. Um, okay, next slide. Okay, important to note, um, NCE is only good for 1 year and only when it comes to federal positions. It should also be noted that NCE does not mean that a VISTA member is guaranteed or entitled to a federal position. It simply means the non-competitive eligibility permits a federal agency to hire a VISTA alum who meets the qualifications for a position without going through a formal review process. So this doesn't mean there won't be an interview or many steps within the hiring process, but it does take some of the steps that members of the general public have to go through out of that process. There's no one entity that manages the non-competitive eligibility status, so it is your responsibility to know the ins and outs of this benefit. And I just realized how hard it is for me to say eligibility.
It does look like Siobhan has a question.
Oh,
Yeah, I do have a question. So you you mentioned that it's good for 1 year, so that's 1 year after our service date is done.
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
At the completion of service. Yep.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think this next slide kind of answers that. So length of um, non-competitive eligibility. So it lasts for 1 year. This date starts on the day after your end of service and goes for 365 days. It can be extended for up to 2 years, however, but for three reasons. Those are if you enter the military, you begin school in a recognized institution of learning, or an activity that the hiring agency thinks warrants an extension. An example of another activity could be interning at another nonprofit, volunteering, or actual employment at an organization that provides you with the skills and experience that make you an even stronger job candidate. And again, to be clear, while you can extend your NCE, it does not mean that you have NCE that whole time. It means that when you are done with the reason you pushed it back, military school, extenuating circumstances, your NCE is valid for time you have left. Okay? So I know I've been speaking a lot, so that's just a question for review. So if you serve 2 years as a VISTA, does that mean you get 2 years of NCE or non-competitive eligibility? You can throw it. Yeah, I see some shaking heads. And that's the right answer. You do not get 2 years. It's only good for the year after you're done with service. Yep, thank you. Okay, next slide. Okay, eligibility. Um, oh, nope, I missed one. Using your NCE. Meet and network with people that work in the federal government. Look for hiring fairs, or there are many places you can search for open positions that accept applicants with NCE on these platforms. Okay, so we have some listed platforms here. And again, I will be sharing resources with everyone, including people that weren't able to attend today via email. But yeah, when you're writing cover letters and things, let people know that you have non-competitive eligibility. It's a big ticket item. Okay, verification of service letter. This document is very important and proves your NCE status. Here's how to access it. Okay, so you go to your myamericorps.gov account, click My Verification Letter, select dates, select VISTA Verification Letter, and you can print and save. Okay, and then we have the VISTA member support hotline number there, as well as a contact email for VISTA support if you have any questions or issues in accessing those materials. And then next slide, please. Okay, when can I use my NCE? It's never too soon to start looking. Federal hiring can be a lengthy process. Let the hiring manager know the day your NCE will start, but keep in mind if you end your service early, you will not receive the NCE. Okay. So that's non-competitive eligibility. And now I thought this would be a good time, um, Veronica, if you want to join the discussion. And Veronica served with HFA in 2022, and she went on to work for HFA after her service and has done many great things afterward. But I thought it would be great if you could share your experience of what it was like for you when you were like nearing the end of your service term.
Hello, everybody. Hope my sound is good. I love this headshot from when I was 23. That's great. I have no up-to-date headshots. That would be, but that's here. There's my first advice. Find a friend, get yourself a headshot that makes of you what you look like today. Um, so when I ended my Vista term, which was a very rewarding time, I was exhausted. I was a little scared. I was excited. I was feeling thankful because Hunger Free America did offer to keep me on for a period of time under grant funding. So it wasn't a permanent position. And that meant that this full work term that I had just done, like your work term, like y'all are just coming to the end I didn't have that safety net anymore. When we're doing my Vista term, I also worked both Saturday and Sunday at a distillery. I did distillery tours, so I was doing 7 days a week, which was really exciting. And I was also getting certified in what I'm specialized to do now, which is nonprofit Salesforce administrative work. So, that's how I immediately left my Vista term, right? All of those emotions, and then also just grateful to have anything going on afterwards. But since then, my career has taken off in some different directions, and maybe we'll get the chance to talk about that too.
Great. And can you do you recall your interactions with like the AmeriCorps system, like the whether you chose like the stipend or the education award, or like maybe how how soon were you offered like it was great, it's always great to get hired by your organization after the end of a Vista term, but when did you start thinking like this is going to be over, like what
Yeah.
what comes next?
So yeah, absolutely. First thing when we were going through that slideshow, I'm so glad that I came to the whole entire training because it really made me feel prepared to talk to you on this topic now. So thanks so much, Robert and Mandy, for sharing again. I went with the stipend. And part of the reason that I went with the stipend should be obvious to y'all. I clearly needed a little bit of a bump of money. I was working 7 days a week, so that's what I went with. And if you're in that same position and you don't think that schooling is the direction that you want to go to, or maybe you're a lucky person who has no student loans, then the stipend might be right for you. I think had I been fully aware that I could use my education award towards an existing loan, which is what it sounded like, I might have gone in that direction. So I think that's super valuable information. I'll also say that PSLF, Public Service, uh-oh, Public Service Loan Relief? No. What does it stand for?
I should know that
PS
too, it might be fun.
Loan Fund? I don't know.
Forgiveness, it's forgiveness.
Forgiveness, that
Forgiveness,
makes a
that's
lot of
it.
sense.
That is excellent. I am going to be done paying my student loan in 2027. And so it is not hard to do this. It's so easy. They made a new portal for it. I mean, I know that in the year that has preceded us, y'all have had a very tentative feeling towards well, I'll explain that in a second, towards your VISTA term. The fact that our federal government has been extremely wishy-washy with your biweekly or monthly stipends or whatever schedule it's set to these days. I'm sure that was very scary for some of you and upsetting as it went along. Very proud of all of you for being able to get through it to this point. And I commend everybody that graduates this program because it is really challenging. Okay, so leaving those two really important things behind, go for the stipend if you need some cash. Go for go do the PSLF if you do work full time at a nonprofit. It is very useful and has directly helped me. Moving back into my career, so I was actually recruited for the position that I hold today, or like a more junior version of the position that I hold today at Ronald McDonald House, New York. And in full transparency, I was a little bit disappointed by this because it meant moving outside of the anti-hunger food justice world and into a nonprofit that focuses on children and supporting their families when they're undergoing really serious illnesses. Meaning, normally they're in a hospital and their families are from all over the country or abroad and don't have a way to stay near them regularly. It's a beautiful mission, but it isn't aligned with what all of us really focus on, the Anti-Hunger Corps. I assume that this is a fully Anti-Hunger Corps group, right? Okay, great, excellent. So in an effort to stay in that world, I'm also a consultant. I work for a small food pantry and soup kitchen. They're not so small anymore, but I consult with them as well. I started as a volunteer, and they identified that they needed more ongoing support, so they became my first and only client in my consultancy, and I've been working with them for 3 years as well. So that was a great opportunity just by seeking work that was in a mission that I loved. I now have this little side hustle or side business working still within food justice. And so that's been very fulfilling. One of the ways that I was able to be recruited is through my intense work on my LinkedIn. And I am currently a steering committee member for the alumni of the AmeriCorps VISTA for the Anti-Hunger Corps. I highly encourage anybody on this call or anybody watching this recording to reach out to me if you have questions about what you can do to your resume to make it more easily read by AI, as an example, or how you can improve your LinkedIn so that people are finding you better and you stand out amid the crowds of people that are looking for jobs. Or even just searching for a job. What's the best strategy to go upon if you don't already have one? Also, if you do have a job lined up after this and you're one of the lucky few, we can talk about navigating expectations of what different types of nonprofits are actually out there. That's one thing that in my VISTA term, I don't think I learned enough about. I expected all nonprofits to be human service based, meaning we focus on serving food to families or providing SNAP benefits to families or helping mothers with the WIC. And that was what I assumed. I thought that all of the nonprofits were going to be somewhat adjacent to that work, but it turns out that there are businesses that consider themselves nonprofits that are in education. There are foundations. There's a whole vocabulary of nonprofit business that I've learned in the last couple of years. And so, yes, if anybody's looking for mentorship, I'm happy to speak with you.
Thank you so much I think that's that's hits on the anxiety that some feel through a service year. And thank you again for just continuing to be engaged and participating in our HFA Vista events.
You're welcome.
But I guess, and I think you touched on this a lot, I think. Um, but and it seems like your service really prepared you for each step along the way and like propelled you into the next thing, and it seems like a perfect fit and progression. Um, but from starting with AmeriCorps and your service, do you have any like tips for networking or how to professionally like, hey, I need a cover letter for I need like I've done this, like, can you help me progress in my career kind of questions for people at their host sites? Oh, and
Okay, yeah, a lot of content in that question. I'll break it down. So starting with networking, networking is like probably my worst skill, I'll be totally honest. I think that I'm verbose and I'm excitable, but in a room full of people, I am more of a learner than I am a meter. So like I ask a lot of questions about people and rather than saying a lot about myself. So I guess if I could turn that into some advice, I would say don't be shy. Try to match everything that you learn about somebody with something you can teach about yourself. so that they get as much out of the interaction as you get out of it. And another piece of advice is when networking, always have a business card on hand or like a QR code so that they can scan your LinkedIn or resume or whatever it is, but don't expect to ever hand it out. When I went to my first conference, I had a stack that was this thick and I gave out one. And so that was a really disappointing feeling. I still have a lot of business cards, but you know, maybe that I know that I stayed in touch with that one person, so that's pretty good. Okay, so that's networking. When it comes to feedback on cover letters, yikes, it's so hard these days to be able to um piece your way through the AI filtering, all of these, the machine learning, all of that stuff. I work in that industry though, so I can tell you this. Human approach, try to take it. Make sure you're not just chat GPTing and putting it into a letter. That's the first thing that they check for is, did a human write this, right? Um, it's been years since I've submitted a cover letter. And that should tell you something because I'm recruited for positions on a weekly basis. So it's not as common as it was when I was coming up in my career. I guess I should point out, based off this photo, you can't tell how old I truly am. I actually had a career that preceded my Vista term. And I know that's something that when I joined AmeriCorps, I just assumed I was going to be with a lot of college grads, right? And then they tell you right away, like, don't assume that. There are people of all ages and backgrounds. But I thought, like, okay, well, even if there are, I've got to be the person with the most amount of work experience. And I wasn't, as you all know now, having interacted with each other. But so I had a career that I wanted to turn into a nonprofit career. And that's a pretty common thing that you hear of Vistas, right? Oh, I want to get into nonprofit, so I'm going to do this work term and I'm going to learn, I'm going to do capacity building work so that I can get into this work. Okay, wow, talking a lot. Did I answer all of your question, Robert? I see that Abby has a question, so I don't want to hold Abby
Yeah,
back.
no, that was great.
Okay.
Yeah, Abby, if you want to unmute.
No worries. Veronica, I was also wondering, like, you mentioned a career change, and like, how do you navigate using this Vista year in that career change? Um, and then also, I was wondering, since we were talking about the education award, um, what happens if there's a shutdown, or like if we like lose funding at some point? Like, would we get part of that education award? Thank you guys. I'll definitely reach out to you, Monica.
Okay. Do you want to handle the education question first, Robert?
Well, yeah, the fact that there was a shutdown this year, like it doesn't withhold your education award. Like if you complete a year of service, you are going to receive the education award if that's what you selected. And as like one of the previous slides said, the amount changes per year to year, but the amount that you're going to receive stays the same. So no worries there. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, great. So then, Abby, going back to like, how do you leverage, and I have this conversation with all Vistas that I speak to, how do you leverage the conversation of what AmeriCorps Vista is when you're in an interview or you're meeting somebody new? And when I was a Vista, we came up with an elevator pitch. I ended up not using it very much because the honest truth is that people that you're speaking to in the nonprofit industry most likely are aware of what AmeriCorps is. What they don't know is about what a VISTA is, volunteer in service to America, right? First off, if you don't already have that memorized, please memorize that now because they will ask you what it stands for. All right, you've got that memorized. The next part to be aware of is that some of the some of the AmeriCorps programs are short term, which makes your ability to get through an entire 365 days of this program so much more impressive. Oftentimes people talk about the stipend and how low it is. I try to focus a little bit more on the capacity building, what kind of skills you were able to develop, what kind of impact you were able to make through this program. And I do think when it comes to telling a story about struggle, talking about the fact that we were in a government shutdown is really important information. It shows that you were able to stick through something. And also it just reminds the person that you're speaking to of maybe they had a full-time job for the last 365 days and you had a more tentative situation, and that was, and they may find sympathy in that type of story. So that's how I always go about explaining what VISTA is, instead of just AmeriCorps. If somebody truly doesn't know what AmeriCorps is, they do know what the Peace Corps is. That's like universal. If they don't know what the Peace Corps is, you can politely end the conversation. But if they know what the Peace Corps is, which most people do, with AmeriCorps, you can just say it's the domestic version. It's the one that's all entirely based on serving the United States. I hope did that answer about VISTA, talking about being a VISTA?
Yeah, thank you so much, Veronica.
Excellent. Okay. I will say that when it comes to my prior career, this wasn't a question that you asked, but it's something else that came to mind. I worked in sales and customer service in the music education business. And every time the way that I bring that into my current, when I speak with professionals today, is just that in donor engagement, fundraising, and working with clients, our end group, the people that we serve, that is the skills that you need for sales and customer service come in to those interactions. So you can come up with a spin. I'll help you come up with a spin, individualized to each of you.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Veronica, for sharing your experience and making your expertise available to continue to help our VISTA cohort. I don't know if by the end of the presentation, if you want to put contact into the chat, or we can figure out the best way. Like you said, you're the head of the mentorship program, so if we talk to Bob, I'm sure we can get you in contact if that's something you're interested in. But thank you again so much for sharing.
Thanks, too. Good luck, everybody. Let me know if you have any other questions.
All right. Oh, it looks like Merlinda, do you want to?
Sorry, if there is time for one more question, I was curious to find out, if you don't mind sharing, Veronica. This was very helpful. How did you land the job in New York? Was it a networking? Was it online applications? Was it a mentor who recommended you? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I put all of that down to being recruited via LinkedIn. So I did not do any of it was actually one of the most amazing feelings, like aside being loved. This, like having a recruiter reach out to you and say, we know you're a great fit. That feeling was excellent. So here's what I did. On my LinkedIn profile itself, I didn't put AmeriCorps VISTA at Hunger Free America. No. I put my title of the work that I was doing. So I started as the database coordinator or something adjacent to that. And so I put database coordinator AmeriCorps VISTA at Hunger Free America. Already that shows that helps people understand what you were doing. And then when they did hire me, they called me the Salesforce administrator. So I said, perfect. Let me show that as two different types of work experience. I start by working at Hunger Free America as a database coordinator, AmeriCorps VISTA, and then I become just a Salesforce administrator at Hunger Free America. That, with very specific lists of duties and skills associated, is the reason that I was recruited for the position. The other reason is because I added a lot of content into my LinkedIn. I have my entire portfolio. You might not even think you have a portfolio, but you do. You have a portfolio of work that is directly related to what you've been spending these last 365 days doing. You just have to put it together, put it into a Drive folder or save it to your personal computer, and then present it to the world. And that's how I was able to get that position.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing.
Great. And a lot to emulate and work off of. So thank you once again. And I will endeavor to, we have a few more slides so we can run through, and it's, but we're near the end, so no worries, guys. Thank you for sharing your time here. Um, so some end of service reminders. Um, so for people who have chosen to get the relocation stipend, if you received the stipend at the beginning of your service and are planning on moving back, you can receive another stipend at the end of your service. You should have received an email about this from AmeriCorps if you had received the beginning of service relocation stipend. And then we have health insurance coverage. Whether you have opted for the VISTA healthcare allowance or the healthcare plan, these benefits will end on the last day of your service. So make sure you're covered. Look into other plans ahead of time to avoid a lapse in coverage. Okay. And I think everyone here has done this, and that this has been what the VISTA leaders have been emailing you most about recently. Complete future plans form. And if you haven't done that, that's a very quick, you log into your My AmeriCorps, it should be hyperlinked at the top of your page. But I think everyone at present today has submitted that form. But it's important for processing your service.